this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. I'm going to have a go at this Yamadori Scots Pine, collected not that long ago actually, as a bit of an experiment, shall we say. I'd gone to collect a specific tree that I'd earmarked some time before, and while I was there I was just looking at the sheer number of young pine trees. And in that area, the soil is so poor and ends up getting quite wet and boggy at times that the trees don't progress very well. They become stunted. So they often look quite a bit older. In fact, they are quite older than their height signifies. Because a pine seedling in the right conditions can grow an awful lot every single year. These don't, they're stunted because of the conditions they're in. And I thought, well, I spent a lot of time digging this flipping tree up, and I thought, I wonder if I could just pull one out of the ground. And I did. I just found one that had a gnarly trunk, so it had some age, even though it had no height. I haven't taken the top off of this. This is as it was. I just took one large branch off. And basically I just pulled it out of the ground. I just got hold of it at the base down here and pulled. And it came out so suddenly that I fell A over B and sat in a puddle and ended up with a wet bottom. But this was the tree. It came home, it had some roots but not many. I potted it up and it's grown on. And this year it's put on a lot of growth. All of this is this year's growth. That growth in turn would have generated quite a bit of root down in the pot. It's in a very shallow pot at the moment, but that's to try and get the roots to spread and also get some base to the trunk. Now, apart from taking that one chop there, I haven't really done anything with this, and I haven't really even thought about its structure. But the first thing that needs to be done is this top needs to be sorted out. And to sort the top out, the rest of it's got to be thought about. Now, there's a very, very large branch coming off here. It's on an outside bend. That's good. It would wire successfully. It could be brought down. So we need to keep this branch. But do I need to keep all of it? If I keep this branch, this bit's going to look silly. This is too weak to have anything done with it. That's not going to progress. Given the size of the tree, it's also too long. So this branch would need some work. And I would suggest that it needs to come off there. That gives me a kink in the branch. If I wire, I think this piece is going to have to be kept. It'll have to be brought round like that, which is a bit of a strange angle. That then allows me to bring this round and twist, and that gives me quite a nice pad with a little bit on this side. This branch is too weak to consider, so we'll take that off now. So I wouldn't take any more off now, because until I get the wire on and get this pad sorted out, it will be difficult to actually work out what to keep and what not to keep. This little piece can become part of the pad. This piece can. So until I get the wire on, I wouldn't do any more with that. Right, we've then got to decide what happens here. There's two branches quite close together. If this is going to be our first branch here, leaning slightly forward, like that, then this branch naturally hangs down, but it's not a very strong branch. I think this would be a much better second branch. So what would this be then? This could be a gin, if we're going to have some dead wood on it. then a gin might be nice. It might be nice to just take it right off and then just have our first branch coming forward and our second branch, which is quite large, coming down and twisting round on the other side. Then this branch might be useful above it, so we'll leave it for now. Then we get up into the weaker branches. We're getting up, so we've got a little branch here that's not up to much, but it could make a nice little pad that would then sit above this one, fill in that gap. And then we've got handlebars. We've got a branch on an outside of the bend and a branch on the inside. Well, that's obvious which one comes off, the one on the inside bend. We don't need that. So we've now got our first two branches. What could become a slightly back branch, not totally back branch, but pushing behind this one and higher up. And we've got this little one here. We've now got another branch here that's not very strong, but it has potential. Then from so far up to here, we've got some form to the trunk. We've got a curve now leading to the top cluster. This is where things start getting complicated because, oh, spider. Because we need an apex. And everything from here upwards is not going to make a good apex because it's too thick for the rest of the tree. So that takes us back to a pair of handlebar branches. One's got to go. If we come round here with the trunk, if we come off at this angle here, that might mask the rest of the tree off. If that was wired round, that would then progress upwards and eventually would blend in. That would make a reasonable apex. What else could we use? We could actually use this. Take this off, leave this as a side branch, or leave that as a side branch. This would then be on an outside bend, so not ideal. But if we twist it with some wire, it would then be on an outside, sorry, I meant inside bend. That naturally comes around this way, that's the inside of the bend. But if I wire it, it becomes the outside of the bend. That then gives me a very strong top to work with. This would then be on the inside of the bend, which we would then not want. It's quite a weak branch anyway. This is a stronger branch than that one. Right, so that one goes. This is the absolute basic branch selection going on here. Now, if that's the case, then this side of the tree comes off there. That then gives us our shape. Now what we've got to do is get back budding forced on this tree. Now it's difficult to know how much to take off to generate back budding when it hasn't been wired. So I'm not going to tediously bore you to tears actually wiring on camera, because it gets on my nerves watching somebody do it, unless I'm watching a real professional that can do it off of a coil and knows exactly where to place it, winds quickly, goes back and puts a secondary one on rather than using ridiculously thick stuff, and it looks brilliant. Now I don't mind watching that at that level. I'm not at that level. I tend to bodge my wiring. It's not very professional looking. I don't do it for the look of it, I do it for its function. So it doesn't necessarily need to look that good for me. I don't show my trees or anything. So I'm going to wire this now off camera, and then we'll come back when I've done the basic wiring. That will be followed by the secondary branch selection, which will enable lots of back budding into the pads that we will have created by wiring. So I'll be back. Okay, after much cussing and swearing and the major decision, I do not like wiring pines. Trying to get the wire to go between the needles is almost impossible. But what I've done is I've developed a reasonably low pad here. I've brought this one down and forward, so that makes a nice shape. And then this one I've taken back and brought forward again. That now fills a gap nicely up towards this pad. They're relatively evenly spaced, so that will work okay as time goes on. This was quite a weak branch, but I've managed to incorporate it. It should be okay just sitting there on the sidelines. It'll develop over time. And then up here I've got this little branch here, and this is where I've got to the point where I don't want to wire up here simply because I need to develop up here. These pads, I've trimmed the ends off of a lot of them, you can see. So what I've done basically is looked for leader buds, and I haven't got them all yet, but everywhere where there's buds I need to take them off, and then it will back bud and I'll have a lot more to work with. But I don't want to take the strength away from the tree completely by taking them all off. I'd like to leave some buds that will produce larger candles next year and again create energy for the tree. So I'm going to leave some, but I don't want any that break the line. I'm only going back into softwood at the moment, not into hardwood. So most of these have been taken back. These are all back bud now, he says confidently, especially on leaders like this. This is a weak branch. This is not a strong branch, but it's got a big fat bud on the end of there, so we'll get rid of that. That will push the strength into other things. Not going to touch that. This one over here, got a big fat bud on the end of there, so we'll let that go. We'll leave the other one. And then we come up to the top. I've taken the two off there. They will now back bud, and that will give me another branch here. This I need to get side branches, so I'm just going to take the tip out. Then the shoots will come out and I'll have my little side branches on there. Then that can be wired in, it'll be on an outside bend. And then we've got this, all of the strength. You've got a mass of buds up here. I can't leave those, so I'm just going to take the tip off. And then we should get some side branches out of this section, and that'll give us a choice for some more branches. I'm not quite sure how much taller I want this tree to grow, but quite happy with this lower structure. Do with coming up just a little bit. I'd like these pads to be evenly spaced so that I get a shape, and then we will lift this one into shape once it's got some side branches. And then over this side, this is a bit abrupt. Up to here, this hopefully will grow, and then I can fill in here, and then we'll have our nice conical outline, but with nice negative space. So that's all I'm going to do to it now. The only other thing I ought to do really is try and get this flipping moss off. Trouble is, this is such a shallow pot. If I start messing about trying to rake all this moss off, I shall end up, the pot will be half as deep again. It will be shallow, but this is this horrible moss that goes right down into the pot. It's almost impossible to, it just breaks off. You know, and then it just grows again. It's just almost impossible to get rid of once you've got it. Anyway, it's not in its final pot, it's not even in its final position. If you look at the way I've designed the tree, the pot's at that angle. So next time it gets repotted, we can adjust the angle to suit the front. got some thickness to the other side of the tree as well. And the whole tree, when it's really potted, could go back a bit, or it could come forward a bit, but we'll decide that when it's out of the pot. So first branch selection, first structural design to get the pads where I want them. These 4 I need to thicken up, 5 really with this one. These I need to grow. So we'll leave it at that for now, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.